Hello, this is Cynthia with Polonia Designs, and today I'm going to show you how to do a quilted self-binding placemat. A lot of placemats that you see out there that are self-binding are just the backing fabric and the placemat panel, but I love to have a little bit more cushion in my placemat whenever you put your plates and things on there. So I love to have that batting in between, and today I'm going to show you how to do that and also quilt the panel. Today I'm using the collection called Gather with a Grateful Heart, and it is from Timeless Treasures. This is the backing fabric that we're going to use, and then this is the placemat panel that we are going to use. And this is just from a panel from the collection. It has 6 different placemats on it, and I have just cut out one of the panels to use for this video. The first thing we are going to do actually is we are going to press some lines in the placemat panel. And the reason I'm doing this is they're quilt guidelines. And what I like to use is the wavy stitch. The wavy stitch is a very forgiving stitch. And if you get off a little bit or if it's not perfectly straight, that's just fine because, like I said, it's a forgiving stitch and I think it's a beautiful stitch. So if you have that on your machine, be sure to use that stitch or any other quilting. You know, you may want to go around the design and just freehand stitch, whatever your preference is. But first, what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold it in half and just give it a quick press there. Then I'm going to fold it again in half, give it a quick press. You don't want a real hard crease in there. So then I've got a line here that I'm going to wavy stitch here and here. And you can also, if you want to add more quilting, by all means do so. I have in the past when I've done these is I will go ahead and sew a wavy stitch right down the middle of those 2 creases, but it's all personal preference, whatever you would like to do for the quilting. The batting, this batting is Warm and Plush, and it comes from the Warm Company. I love this. It's 100% cotton, and it is a wonderful, it's wonderful batting. I just love the thickness of it. It's got a good thickness. It's not real thin, but then what I'm going to do is just give it a quick basting spray just to keep it. You don't need a lot because the batting really helps it to stay in place. So you don't need a lot of the spray. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a wavy stitch, and I set my machine to stitch length of 3 and a width of 7, and that gives a nice wavy stitch. Not real tight, but not, you know, real loose where you can't tell it's a wavy stitch. So I'm going to go ahead and stitch that now. And all I'm using is just a beige thread, something that won't show up a lot, but you know, you can tell that it has been quilted. And all I do is just follow right along this fold line. And if you want to just turn around, move it down, and start on the middle fold line. But you can see how pretty that wavy stitch is right there. And of course, if you're doing more than just one placemat, if you're doing 4, 6, or 8 placemats, you could just send one, you know, one right after the other through as you're quilting and make it go that much faster. Just move that down to the next fold line. Okay, you can see how quick and easy that is. You can see what a pretty stitch that is on the placemat. And like I said, if you want to go ahead and stitch another line down there that's Entirely up to you. Now what I want to do is change my machine to a straight stitch and a very long stitch, and I want to baste around the edges so this will stay down and everything will stay nice and flat, and I will go ahead and do that now. And all I'm going to do is about 1/8 of an inch from the edge. And just a very long stitch, just to make sure everything stays in place. Okay, so there's the basting stitch right around there. And I'm going to take it to my cutting mat and I'm going to trim around the edges and get it to the length that we want for our placemat. Okay, now that that is nice and trimmed, you can see how pretty that's going to be. And everything's held in place by the basting stitch around there. And what I need to do now is give it a good press. And you can also see where we stitched through, see some of the quilting on the back. Okay, now let me get my ruler and we're going to make some markings on the top of our panel. Okay, what we need to do is come in from the edge 3/4 inches. And this is a line that you will not see, so if you want to use a pencil, if you're on a light colored fabric, I always like these friction pens. They are made, this one I believe is made by Pilot. These are wonderful, wonderful pens, and we also sell these on our website, poloniadesigns.com. But what you want to do is come in 3/4 of an inch and draw a line. Make sure it's dark enough where you can see it. There we go. Okay. And you're going to do that along each edge. And then what we want to do is make a little 1/4 inch box in each corner. And just get one of your favorite rulers. This is just an OmniGrid ruler. And find the corner where you can do a nice 1/4 inch square there. Just mark each edge. These are going to be your stop and start stitching lines. Okay. Then what we want to do is fold this in half, because what we want is to mark our center lines on each edge. So what I like to do is just fold the placemat in half give it a finger press. If you have a little roller, you can use that as well. Your fingers, after a couple placemats, I would imagine your finger will be getting a bit sore, but this one will be pretty easy because you've already done that stitch. That stitch should be centered. Okay, so once you have those marked, come back with your friction pen. Just mark a line right there on that crease, and that way you have your center marking. And after that is done, we are going to do the same thing with the backing fabric. And on the wrong side of the backing fabric, this was on the right side, we want to do the wrong side. On the backing fabric, we are going to fold it in half. Just do a finger press there, just like that. And then fold in half lengthwise. Finger press here, finger press there. And then open it up and also place a center mark. Okay, then the first thing we are going to do is we are going to stitch the top and stitch the bottom, the long lengthwise sides first. So what you want to do is line up these two center marks right there and go ahead and pin. And then lay your fabric right along that line that you have drawn 3/4 of an inch in. And I usually like to pin it several times so it doesn't shift as you're sewing. And I just keep my pins in the fabric. I bring them down far enough where they don't interfere with my pressure foot. Okay. Now that that is pinned, what we want to do is take the marking, this 1/4 inch marking that we have there, and mark that on top. Take that and mark that on top, and we're going to stitch a 1/4 inch seam right along this edge. We're going to start here, back stitch, come all the way across, stop, and back stitch. So you want to drop your needle right on that line. Start at a 1/4 inch, do a couple of stitches, and go back. And I usually do a stitch length of about 3. Stop right on that line and back stitch. I'm going to remove our pins. You can see with that stitch from there to there. We're going to flip this over. We are going to do the same exact procedure on this side. And if I am not using a walking foot, you can use a walking foot if you like, since you're doing some layer sewing. But if you pin it really well, the fabric should not move on you. And like I said, I keep my pins down so it doesn't interfere with my sewing foot. Okay, same thing, take our friction pen, find that 1/4 inch line, mark it there, come over here, mark it there. Sew from line to line. Just make sure that fabric stays up against that line that you've drawn. Back stitch. And we're done with this side. Take your pins out. Okay, and then what we're going to do are both ends. So same procedure, you want to match up these center lines. Go ahead and pin that. And then make sure that we move this fabric out and lay the edge. You're going to have some wings out here on the side, but then go ahead and pin that. Make sure the edge of your fabric is right there on the edge of that drawn line. Pin this. And put some more pins in the middle to keep it from shifting. Draw our 1/4 inch, and you can see that where you have stopped stitching is right here. We're going to draw our line from right where you can feel that edge of the fabric. We want to drop our needle right there. And then over here you can see where we've stopped. Right here on the edge. Find that edge. And then draw your 1/4 inch line. But we're going to drop our needle right in there. Begin stitching on that line, 1/4 inch seam. Back stitch. Okay. Remove your pins. Turn your placemat, and on this side, the only difference is we are going to make an opening on this end and keep it open so we can turn our placemat right side out. So same thing, make sure that your wings are out and none of this fabric underneath is getting caught under there. Just make sure everything is nice and flat and laid up next to that line. Okay. Now, what I like to do is about a 4-inch gap here on this end. And I'm going to go 2 inches on this side, make a mark, and then 2 inches on this side and make a mark. And when you're going to stitch from here to here and here to here, then you can see here that we need to make our line here for your 1/4 inch to stop and start. Let me pin that. Get that on that line a little bit better. Oops. So we want to stitch from here to here, back stitch both spots, back stitch here, and stitch. I'm going to put another pin here in the middle. Stop right there on that line, back stitch. Raise your needle, and all I do, I don't take it out, I just move it right along. Just pull that thread right through, drop your foot, go a couple of stitches. I usually do 3 stitches forward and back. Go to your next line, stop on the line, back stitch. Okay. You are done with that side. You can go ahead and trim that thread off. That way it's not in your way later. Okay. Now we need to make our 45-degree angle for our mitered edges. And what I like to do is get my clips, take this and fold it. Clip it like that. Go to your next corner, fold it in. Oh, I've still got a pin in there. You've got your little wing out. Everything is nice and even there. Go ahead and clip that. And I just go ahead and do all four corners. It looks like a little box when you're done, but I just like to go ahead and do them all because it needs to stay together for a few procedures. And the last corner, just fold it, make sure everything's nice and straight. And then we are going to come back with your ruler. What you want to do is put your ruler along this folded edge and draw a line from where this stitch stops all the way down. So lay your ruler right there on the edge. Move this side of the ruler right there on the edge of that stitch line. And draw a line down. And when we go to stitch this, you're going to drop that needle right where that stitch line ends all the way down to the end. And we're going to do that on each corner. But you can see what I meant, like a little box. When you do the corners, it just looks kind of neat. Same thing here. Line your ruler up on that creased edge, right there on the edge of the stitch line. Draw that line. Go to the next one. Okay, now what we want to do is put our needle right here, make a stitch line right down there, just come off the end and we'll trim the threads. We can drop our needle right there on the edge. So right in there where this comes down and folds, you can feel right there where that starts. That's where you want to drop your needle and just sew a straight line down. Just stitch right off the edge. Cut that. Do that same thing with all the corners. You can see it helps when you just go ahead and use clips or pins on each one of your corners and go ahead and get them done. That way you're not clipping and reclipping and just got them all clipped, and they can stay clipped till you're done. Okay, all those are done. What you can do now, we can go ahead and unclip all of these, get those clips out of the way. And then what you want to do, you want to trim this off at 1/4 inch, but make sure you don't catch this corner. So what I do is I just take that corner, fold it back, lay my ruler right there like that. Make sure this fabric right here is out of the way. Go ahead and cut that off. Do that on each corner. So move that back. Your ruler right there, and you can use scissors as well. Just make sure you don't cut this fabric. It's underneath fabric panel. Okay, last one. Okay, they are all trimmed. And the last thing before we flip it out is we are going to fold this edge down, and I need to go get my glue stick. I'll be right back. Alrighty, so to make it easier, and you'll see whenever we flip out, because we'll have to, when we flip it out, stitch this closed, this opening closed, and it's a lot easier if you go ahead and fold this down. And that gets it nice and even. And I love these Roxanne glue sticks. You can use any glue. You don't have to use glue. You could just take your iron and sew it, or take your iron and iron it flat. Or you can take the glue stick and put a little glue on there just to make sure that it's nice and straight and stays. But you can see how nice that lays down. And then get my iron heated here, and then we're going to just press this down, and that heat will make that temporary glue stick adhere that fabric down. That way when we flip it out, it won't move. Okay, just press that, and you can see when we press it, our lines disappear because of that friction pen. The friction pen, whenever a heat is applied to it, it goes away. So, but now that we have that pressed, we can go ahead and flip out this placemat. Okay, now one of the fun parts is turning this right side out. So all you want to do is put your hand in there, grab the other end, pull it through gently. It's one of the reasons why we backstitch here, so it doesn't tear the fabric as you're pulling it through. And that's why I like to leave a little bit of a bigger opening, so that you don't tear it as it comes through, instead of making such a small opening, and then it's twice as hard to pull that batting and everything through. But you can see here, now that it's through, how nice that has stayed together and has stayed nice and straight. So here we are with our placemat, and we're going to just work on these corners and get these corners out. You can take a point turner. You can also use something long like a ruler and just get down in these corners and make sure that the 1 inch piece of panel and batting are coming out to the edge and are flat up here in the corners. So just take your point turner, just make sure you don't poke it through, make sure that corner comes out and you get that nice point there. You have to work with it a little bit. Okay, let's go to this corner. Because we did a basting stitch around the edges, that will help that lay flat down in there, that panel and binding that are under there. Okay, this next corner. They're nice and flat. Sometimes you have to just kind of work with it a little bit to get that in there. Okay, and what I find, it's a little easier if you turn your placemat over and go from the back, just to make sure that the edges of this placemat panel are laying flat and everything looks good there. Everything is up in the corners. You don't have anywhere where it's folded down and kind of matted up. So that looks good. And look at that. Isn't that pretty? Oh, I love this. I just love this collection by Timeless Treasures. We do sell this collection on PoloniaDesigns.com. We also sell it on our Etsy shop at Polonia Designs. So, and what we are going to do now is give it a good press, and then we are going to sew a 1/8 inch seam around the edge. So that will close there, and then after that, we're going to come back and do another 1/8 seam around the outer edge, and this will hold that panel and binding or backing down so that when you wash it, that won't get all bunched up, you know, and get loose and bunchy, you know, in your border. So let's give this a good press. I just love this Thanksgiving pattern. And again, the name of it is Gather with a Grateful Heart. And I love the plaid that comes in this collection. I just think it goes really well and works wonderfully as a backing fabric, backing and binding fabric. Okay. So now I'm going to stitch seam. And just as you're coming down this edge that's open and you want to get that closed, just pay extra attention that that stays nice and straight there. Okay. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start up here in the corner and drop my needle right down in this mitered seam. Just stitch that 1/8 of an inch seam around the edge. And then stop right on this mitered seam. Raise your foot up, pivot, and you can see what a nice edge that leaves. And stop right in this seam. Raise your foot on the next side. This just helps to give it a nice finished look as well. Keep everything underneath in place. Stuff right on that seam. Go ahead and pull it out, and then You can see what it looks like on the back. If you prefer to use a darker thread, since it's darker binding, feel free. But what I'm going to do is pull these top threads through to the bottom and then sew, or then tie them in a knot. And all you have to do is pull that to kind of get that started. And I use my little purple thing. If you don't have one of these, they're a great little tool as well. Get that and pull that through. Get this one started. You can see that top thread come through. Right. Oop. Nope, I didn't do that. Pull the other thread and not the top thread. Okay, so you can see I've pulled through that top thread. Where I stopped and started. So just take 2 each of the threads and just I do about 3 knots. And I know that's good and secure. Trim that off. And then we're going to come back. And we're going to sew 1/8 of an inch from this edge. But you can see, you can't even tell which side. So this was the side that was open and now is shut. But I like to do it on the side. I think it's less noticeable when you do it on the side instead of the top or bottom. I think it shows a lot more if you've got a little bit of that sticking up on the top or bottom. But let's go ahead and do that 1/8 seam, and you'll see what a nice finishing look that does. And I want to start in the same corner. Down, stop right in that seam, pivot. But you can see how nice that looks, having that second line, and it just holds that placemat panel and batting real nicely there. Stop right on that seam, pivot. You can see this goes fairly quick. Because the binding is so easy to do, it just makes it go a lot quicker than I think traditional binding. Okay, get those threads out of the way, and then we want to stop right there on that seam. Okay, then we're going to do the same thing we did. Bring these top threads back through to the back. That way we can tie that knot. A little tool here. Grab that loop, pull that thread through. Pull that thread through. And 3 knots should do it. Trim those off. Okay, and here's our finished quilted self-binding placemat. It just feels really good. You've got that batting in there, so it gives it a little bit of thickness and will lay very nicely on your table. And you have the double stitching on top that holds all that batting and placemat panel in place. And I just think it looks really good. So hope you will enjoy these in your home as much as we do in ours.